My name is Jennifer Scanlon. I am the new executive director for JRACraft, and I am going to throw the conversation ball to our board chair, Rebecca Ravenel, who will be discussing the agenda for the meeting and start us off.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. So yes, I'm Rebecca Ravenel. I'm the current board chair for JRACraft, and it's such a pleasure being here for another annual meeting with everyone. We do have a full agenda for this evening, including a review of some recently completed programs and what we have coming up. Look at a few of the exciting programs we have planned for this season. I do want to acknowledge that we do have Jennifer Scanlon here. She is our brand new executive director as of July. And towards the end of the meeting, you'll have a chance to hear more about her and ask her questions if you want. But first, we have two very special guests who are going to give us an update on the situation following Hurricane Helene. And of course, our hearts go out to everyone affected by this terrible storm, especially our friends from the craft community who are suffering. Our first guest, Stephanie Moore, is the executive director of Center for Craft in Asheville. She has, unfortunately, an up-close perspective on the storm and its aftermath, and she's going to give us some insight into what's happening on the ground and their efforts to help. After that, Cameron Lewis, a director at the Craft Emergency Relief Fund, will talk about their organization and how they are positioned to help craft artists during these kinds of disasters. Welcome to both of you, and let's begin with Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Congratulations, Jennifer. We are thrilled to have this opportunity to talk to your membership. It has been an extremely taxing and unusual set of a couple of weeks, but I will do my best to give you a firsthand account of going through this experience. The Center for Craft, as many of you know, is located in downtown Asheville. We have small mountain towns around us that safe harbor artists of all kinds, but primarily craft artists who have been a valuable resource in this region for years. And so the Center for Craft went through the storm. This was an unusual storm, a massive 300-mile storm, and a 500-year event. So it broke all records compared to a storm that went through in 1916, where we had 3 days of rain and then the hurricane hit. So some of these small towns withstood 10 to 30 inches of water before the storm ever got there. The other thing is that, the area, for those of you who've had a chance to be here, has a lot of rivers running through it. And those swells and those crests, I think, were upwards of 26 feet. And so places like the River Arts District, towns like Marshall High, which has Marshall High Studios, certainly Chimney Rock, those towns were washed away. There are structures now as the waters recede, but it's a little bit like looking into a war zone where the only thing that's left are fragments of these artists' lives. And we're finding through a lot of the relief efforts that we're tuning into that studios that were full of artwork, that artwork doesn't qualify for insurance. So it's a tremendous amount of loss for these artists. And, I think I've touched base with some of your fond members like Michael Sherrill. Mud Tools was washed away, the office and the production facility, including all of his molds for Mud Tools, which he makes a living off of. Kate Vogel and John Littleton are up in the mountains. They had like 12 trees on their driveway and had to cross over those trees to get to Wi-Fi. So I'm not going to focus on those devastating stories, but we are kind of at that moment of, rescue to recovery and learning where people who are missing are, and getting through that process of having homes and studios destroyed. So it's still very new. We don't have basic service. So a lot of homes still don't have electrical. Wi-Fi is broken, cell towers are down. The water is going to take weeks to repair. So, we lost about 34 miles of pipes to get the north water source to town. And so this is a rebuild that's going to take a really long time for Western North Carolina. And the center knew that immediately, just being able to have our eyes and ears on it. So we evacuated staff. We've got a team of 3 on site taking care of the building. The rest of us are all through the Southeast. I'm actually in Front Royal because I have a good connection and a place to be, but immediately stopped all of our programming to figure out how we could support Western North Carolina, which was hit hardest in all of this. And most of the highways are still being constructed, so it's really hard to get relief effort into the area. The center itself fared pretty well. We had minor damage through water intrusion to the mezzanine area, which is our 3rd floor, and the basement area, but none of the artwork, none of our storage was destroyed. We actually opened up our internet access, so there were people that were stranded downtown tapping into our internet access, and we've had electricity the whole time, which is great. So it's really been how do we use the building as a beacon for hope and for basic needs for artists to come and to take part. So we are, and our team is safe, and that's a good thing. We have stopped all of our program efforts. Many of you also know we're a grant maker. And so in the past, I want to say it's past week, we've been raising money from donors across the country. We reinstituted our Craft Futures Fund, which was a source of support during the pandemic. I feel like the pandemic was much easier than what we're going through right now because everybody was going through it together. This is a little more awkward for us. We're going to start some of our grant making programs up on a delayed time frame, but we're really focused on the Craft Futures Fund. We've raised about $786,000 to date, but we haven't yet put the word out that this fund is available. So this is kind of my first time talking about it. And it's going to take a lot of resource to get the community back to where we need it. So we could go to the next slide, which just talks about the Craft Futures Fund. It's intended to reactivate artists in the recovery phase. And what we know is that there's a lot of relief that's needed. So by Tuesday, we will have applications up and available to artists in the $500 level and get those out as rapidly as possible. And then we will go into grants for about $5,000 after that to encourage the recovery process. But we're working as rapid and transparent as possible to get these resources to people and to encourage them to stay and to feel supported. So I've got a barcode here. The next slide. And this is, you could just point your phone to this and donate. It goes to Paybe, which is secure, and it'll immediately come to us, and we're going to start distributing funds Tuesday. All I can say is that we had in the region about 108 years ago in 1916, a similar flood. This was far above it. And then the region went through the Spanish flu in 1918. And after that, there was a revitalization of Asheville. A lot of the really important architecture in downtown came up after that. We're talking about a group of people that are super pioneering, hardworking, resilient. And I do think the region will come back, but it's going to take a lot of resource and a lot of time. I'm happy to answer questions, or if you want to.
Yeah, actually, sorry, Stephanie, we're going to do hear from Cameron, and then we'll have questions for both of you. So
Perfect.
thank you very much.
Yep.
And that's, yeah. So Cameron, we're going to give you a chance to talk, and then if anybody out there does have questions, please put them in the chat for either Cameron or Stephanie, and then we'll field those questions when Cameron's done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for having me. My heartfelt sympathies to everybody who's been affected by Hurricane Helene. As a fellow North Carolinian, I definitely feel a lot from this emergency, even though I've been in this space for almost 17 years. Last time I joined the JRA board meeting, you were speaking of the pandemic. It was actually in 2020 during the pandemic when it was an event unlike any of us had ever seen. And I feel all different. This is an event unlike anything I've ever seen in many regions. So I'm going to go to the slide. I'm going to very briefly talk about the Craft Emergency Relief Fund. I know many folks are familiar with us. We have been around for 40 years. We were created by for craft artists for preparedness, response, and recovery. Unfortunate as everything is, we were discussing recently, this is kind of the types of events that the Craft Emergency Relief Fund was built for. I won't spend too much over our programming today because I want to allow plenty of time for questions. So maybe we could just hop to the next slide. And we'll go ahead and jump to the next slide. Great. So really what I want to focus on today is that we have an emergency relief grant program. These are $3,000 for craft artists who've had a practice-threatening emergency. To give a sense of the size of scale that we have seen, last fiscal year, we awarded 141 emergency relief grants, and already we have received over 160 applications from Hurricane Helene. So we are hearing from many, many craft artists who've been affected by this emergency. We know that the need is great. We are doing our best to turn those around as promptly as possible. But this is a program that is open year round, and it's not just for climate-related emergencies. I feel the need to call it out. It's really for any type of emergencies that artists go through. There could be accidents, injuries, thefts, what have you. So very busy time on that front. It's what we really were built for and are best known for. So if you hear of craft artists who've been affected by this disaster or other disasters, please send them our way and we'll make sure to support them with an application. Sometime into our existence, probably about 10 years ago, we realized we couldn't just be in response if we weren't focused on preparedness as well. So if you flip over the coin, we have our Get Ready program. These are $1,000 grants for artists to do any sort of activity that protects themselves from a future emergency. Unlike the emergency relief program, which is open year round, this one is typically only open twice a year. It is open at this moment, although it's not the right time to talk about it. We will be accepting applications to October 29th for that program. I'm going to briefly mention gifts in kind because I think it's a really important extra support for artists who've had an emergency. We work with a number of businesses who either donate supplies or gift cards or other resources for artists who've had an emergency. A couple partners I want to mention are Scott Kilns. They provide 3 kilns to us a year to give to artists who've lost their kilns as a result of an emergency. Rio Grande, who provides credits to their customers so that they can help replace materials, and Penguin Clay Pottery also provides gift cards to artists. Those are just a couple examples, but a really nice extra boost for artists. Can I go to the next slide, please? There we go. I won't go over, all the stats on Hurricane Helene. I know you all have been following it probably very closely. I will say from my experience in disaster that this is that moment where there is a lot of support. There's a lot of goodwill. Part of the challenge is that everybody wants to help right now. So they all want to support immediately. They want food, they want water, they want shelter. But as Stephanie was talking about, recovery can take a long time, can take months, it can take years. I started my career in Hurricane Katrina, and there's still some areas that are still recovering from that event. So as you donate or as you offer support, I do encourage you to think about the long-term recovery as well. The need is great now, but will also be helpful in the future. And One thing we always say in disaster this is that cash is king. Although physical donations are helpful and at times welcome, cash allows artists to get what they need most in that moment and help them with their recovery. So I just want to call that out. It's really the best way to be flexible and allow folks to meet the needs that they have within that moment. Can I have the next slide, please? We have a number of resources more geared towards preparedness, but can be helpful, especially around insurances, understanding different insurances. And as folks look to rebuild their studios, they can look at this safety guide. It helps think of different features that you would want to consider as you're setting up your studio to prevent some emergencies such as fires, which we see a lot of, or help protect themselves from events that are really out of their control. Can I have the next slide, please? And it's my last slide, I believe, so I can stay within the 5 minutes. Oh, I don't have another slide. That's okay. There are some other resources out there that I want to mention as well. NCAPER, the National Coalition for Arts Preparedness and Emergency Response, has a federal relief guide for artists. It was made in 2018, so it's a little bit outdated, but it has some really good resources for artists because we know that navigating FEMA systems can be incredibly challenging and frustrating at times. And so I think they've done a really great job at putting folks who want to volunteer their time. I recommend checking out NVOAD, the National Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. They're a place that vets disaster organizations. So if you want to volunteer your time, either within the locations that were affected, which is not possible for many regions right now, but also remotely, there's lots of opportunities for NVOAD to use your time. And then lastly, I will say the Disaster Distress Helpline is a free resource that is managed by SAMHSA, and that provides folks just a place to talk and process these horrible things going on. So if you yourself are recovering from the emergency and you just need to have a neutral voice to chat with, I really encourage the Disaster Distress Helpline as a great resource for folks. And I think I'll pause there. And thanks for putting the links in the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you. That was very helpful. I see that we did have some questions and many of them were answered. Stephanie's quick on the keyboard there. And all of the these links and the information that if you didn't manage to capture that, you can go to the Surf Plus website and the Center for Craft website, and JRACraft website will be sure to capture a lot of that information and post links to those also, so that if you didn't have a chance to get that information during the meeting, circle back around to these three websites, and hopefully that will provide all the answers and resources. Does anybody have any other questions for Stephanie and Cameron, because they're extremely busy and they are going to log off after their presentation? No?
I do see Ann Powers has her hand up.
Oh, okay.
You're on mute though.
Well, Fred, I jump in with Fred Sanders. Can donations be designated for Western North Carolina and not other regions?
So for Center for Craft support, it's all going to Western North Carolina. We're not supporting the other areas that were equally as affected, which SURF may support, but the Craft Futures Fund will be directed to Western North Carolina. And then I guess SURF can respond to that too.
Yeah, we are trying not to uber restrict it geographically because we recognize that 6 states were affected. However, you are welcome to put that in the notes, and we will do our best to allocate it to Western North Carolina. We're not calling an official fund, but we are keeping funds for Helene separate than our other emergency funds, just so we can make sure that those donations go directly to artists that were affected.
Great, thank you. There are a lot of people who might be on camera with their virtual hands up, but I think it's easier if you have a question, if you could type it in the chat. That's easier for us to monitor. Okay. Perry, Inga, Jennifer, do you see any other questions that we've missed?
It looks like registrant ZCAF has a question. And I believe you're unmuted, so feel free to just shout it out.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry. It's Marjorie Goldberg from Zenith Community Arts Foundation and Zenith Gallery. We have, well, there's a couple questions. One, what about clothing and things like that? Would they be interested in getting any of that? Also, we have a mobile wood shop and a stationary wood shop. We probably built the only mobile wood shop on the East Coast, and we get donated tools all the time, and lots of them, because we've been on television a lot and people know us, and so we're kind of hitting critical mass on all the donated tools we could take. I mean, we're talking woodworking tools, so how would we get them there if they wanted them? Number one.
I mean, I can say that that's pretty tough. All three main arteries to Western North Carolina were cut off, with the exception of the southbound artery. And one of those arteries coming from Tennessee was completely destroyed and still not rebuilt. So the way rescue efforts and supplies are coming in right now is primarily through helicopter for the communities that need it most. But I would say give it, maybe 2 weeks, and you may be able to get supplies in like that. The artists are right now just
Yeah.
digging through mud and stuff to get what they can. And so I think that at some point they will need those supplies. It's just a little too premature right now.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't meaning immediately,
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, and I get this all the time. Plus, I have a dear friend who has a condo down there and drives down there a lot. I could also just give stuff to her to
Yeah.
take.
And it looks like there's someone in the chat that's actually a wood turning club that lost their equipment. So, I think it's making those connections, which we're also hoping to do. So.
Okay, that's great. I'm not seeing any new questions coming in, and I can't see if anybody has their virtual hand raised. Inga, Perry.
No more virtual hands, so I think you can move on, Rebecca.
Okay. Well, Stephanie and Cameron, this has really been so valuable, and we really appreciate it. And obviously, again, all our hearts go out to everybody affected, but we're so glad that both of you and organizations and individuals like you are helping. And of course, as I said, anything that JRACraft can do to help, we'll be happy to amplify your message and post resources. But again, everybody, you can go to Center for Craft website and Surf Plus website and our own website for updates and continued information. So thank you very much, both of you.
Thanks so much for having us and all your support.
Yep. Thank you for the invitation.
Right. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, well, now I'm going to throw it back to Jennifer to continue on with our agenda.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I am going to take a look at having come into JRACraft just over the summer and thinking about all of the programming over the past year. We were talking about what JRACraft does, and our programs and membership coordinator, Perry Munter, came up with the phrase, the ecosystem, the craft ecosystem. So that seemed like a great way to think about it, to think about, the way the ecosystem is a system that takes care of, that provides support to all of its different elements, that if one element, and in this case, all of the artists in Western North Carolina, is hurt, then it hurts the ecosystem as a whole. I wanted to take just a second to highlight the JRACraft ecosystem, in addition to our amazing board, and the board chair, Rebecca Ravenel. I wanted to really celebrate the two people that I'm working with and who have been so important as I've been transitioning into this role. That is Perry Munter, the ecosystem name. Yeah, there she is. And I also wanted to highlight Inga Bragasdottir. Inga, are you around? Can you just show your face and wave? She's, there we go. She's marketing. She's in charge of our marketing and finance. So these two staff members of JRACraft, they work part-time, but do so very much. And I really appreciate the two of them. And if you call in or email, you might hear a response from one of those two. So just wanted to highlight them. And just give you just the year in pictures, as it were, a kind of idea of what we did, what JRACraft did over the past year. And for those of you who are not JRACraft members or as involved, to give you a sense of what you could be doing if you were a JRACraft member. This page shows some of the programs, the talks, demos, and events that were given over the past year, and they range from up in this upper left-hand corner. These are Jamie Okuma's amazing beaded high heels. Those are fabulous, and they were part of a discussion, an online discussion. Our coffee and conversations are free and held online. We've also have some artist demos. We have the panel discussion that's part of the Spring Craft Weekend, and we have fun events as part of that weekend too. So you can see those all here. It was a total of 24 programs. We're saying more or less since the last annual meeting, which included 1,838 participants. Of those programs, 9 were completely free, and we had 804 people that participated in those programs. So just a nice range from the in-person to the online, from the scholarly to the community building and fun. We also had trips in the United States and abroad. It was, in fact, pointed out, I don't know if Chris Brifkin is with us today, but Chris, you are in every single photo of our trips. So an avid trip goer. The image on the left is from the trip to New York City that we took earlier this year. And on the right is the international caucus trip to New Zealand.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, Jen.
Hi, Chris. No, we love to see your face. It was great. And I appreciate your participation. I also wanted to talk about an initiative which I was really excited. Right when I came on, all of these classes were starting, and this is an amazing initiative of the team and the former director, Jamie Ann Jacobin. So there were 5 classes this year. They went from 1 class 2 years ago to 5 classes this summer. We had 120 students. We also had 14 scholarships, which meant that we were able to offer the classes free to people, a total of 32 class sessions, and you can see the great variety of subject matter that we were able to offer. And I'm just going to give you some of the feedback that we got from those classes, including amazing recognition for the scholars that taught. Michelle Fisher-Miller here is praised as an incredible talent in relaying the complex histories of her subject. And you can see Garth Johnson is named on the lower right here as just being able to show all of his incredible research and the results, and being so generous and sharing it with the people who took the class. And I think our quilt instructor, Teresa, is on the call, so I'm just going to call her out and potentially, I hope not embarrass her when I say that an excellent class, the highlight of my summer, was a specific reaction to her class. So we got a lot of great feedback, and I was especially delighted to see the person who mentioned this was my first JRA class, but it won't be my last. So we will be, in fact, running those classes again, and it's such a wonderful way to continue the community online. I attended a few of those classes, and the discussions, the thoughtful discussions were so much, created such a great online community that I hadn't realized was possible. So that was exciting as a group of programs to step into. In addition to providing these events and providing community through the programs and events, JRACraft also provides support for artists. And so I pulled out a few numbers through selling events that we have, such as JRACraft Day. We also offer craft on auction as part of our Spring Craft Weekend, and we offer support to artists directly through our Chrysalis Award. JRACraft offered over the last year $13,875 in directly to artists in support. We also provide support for scholarship. It's last year between the stipends we gave to our instructors, between the honorariums we gave to people who gave talks, and to people who wrote for the quarterly, we gave $14,525 in support. And of course, we also give support to institutions and publications. Michelle Miller-Fisher, who taught our class in craft schools, we also helped fund her catalog, and the Nancy Cat, which hasn't come out yet, I don't believe. So this is just sort of a fake image of that craft schools. Michelle is a curator at MFA Boston. She's the curator of craft there, and so that is scheduled to open, I think, in 2026, if I'm not mistaken. And on the right, Nancy Callan's exhibition Forces at Play opens on Saturday, and so that catalog will be available with a special discount for JRACraft.
Jennifer, can I just put it? Nancy just emailed me that the opening was canceled because of a terrorist threat.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm very sorry to hear that. And
It'll be rescheduled, but who would want to do that to a small museum?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that, and I'm so sorry that affected her opening. And I very much hope for everyone there that there's a safe opening that's replanned very soon. We also so we were glad to be able to support those two catalogs, and also were able to give $50,000 towards the exhibition, the fiber exhibition that is currently on view at the Renwick Gallery as well. And you can see an image right here in the center. So just a really brief financial overview. I am very lucky to have stepped into an organization with on a very solid standing. We just finished our budgeting for the year, so I thought I would share this information with all of you about fiscal year 24. Our fiscal year ends at the end of September, and we budgeted $393,000 of income, and our actuals were $430,754 For expenses, we budgeted $389,000. The actuals were less at $352,000. So we made more, we spent less. And instead of a resulting surplus of $4,094, we had a surplus of $78,488. So it's great to see those numbers. It speaks to the strength of this organization, to the financial oversight given by the board, and to the amazing shoes I'm stepping into of the most recent executive director, Jamie Ann Jacobin. So the organization is doing very well. We now have in cash reserves, we have a full year. We have over $352,000 in cash reserves right now, so enough to prepare for those emergencies that happen. So just to talk about the upcoming year, I actually am going to throw this back to Rebecca if you're ready to talk about some of the things that are going on in
I am ready. And I just wanted to say a brief thing about the classes, because I noticed there's a discussion about several people were asking whether the classes that have already been given were recorded and are available. So just the particulars of how to organize an online class that's live with all the participants on screen and asking questions and that kind of thing didn't lend itself to being packaged as a recorded class that we could then kind of provide on demand. But that is a model that we're hoping to specifically record classes going into it up front, knowing that they will be made for on-demand purchase. So that is in the mix, and hopefully next summer we'll be able to offer both the simultaneous kind of live on screen classes and the recorded ones. But upcoming programs, I'm putting on my other hat in JRACraft, which is the chair of the Distinguished Artist Series. And that is a series where we highlight a notable craft artist. For each artist gets 2 events. One is an online artist talk, usually scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. And then the following Saturday, they come to the Washington, D.C. area to give a live workshop demo in person. And this season we have partnered with 3 wonderful local organizations to host those in-person workshops. So
move forward, Rebecca, and share those.
Sure. Yeah. Courtney Madison is coming up very soon at Hillwood Estates. Yep, it's Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens. So she'll give the online talk, and then she'll come into town, and that program will also be accompanied by an exhibit, viewing walk around with the curator of the exhibit at Hillwood and Courtney. So that's going to be very exciting. The next DAS event is Dirk Joseph, who we've partnered with Pyramid Atlantic. And Dirk is going to talk about his unusual paper molding technique and his background in puppetry. And the third and final one for the season is Ted Lott, who is a woodworker kind of riffing on furniture making. And we've partnered with Hyrick House Museum. This is a first for us. We're very excited. So Ted is going to give a demonstration, and then our own member and author Oscar Fitzgerald is going to give a tour and talk about some of the wonderful wood furniture at Hyrick House. So all of those programs are fleshed out in more detail on our website, and you can read about them and sign up on the website. So moving to other upcoming programs, JRACraft Day, our 17th annual event, in which we showcase our working craft artist members of JRACraft. That's the first Saturday in December. It's a great chance to buy gifts for the holiday or for yourself. Um, I I don't remember. There's 40 something artists. I don't have the exact number, but that event is also, there's a lot of information on our website about that event. And it's free, in person, and it's always a great time. The next event I want to highlight is our Springcraft Weekend. Springcraft Weekend is our biggest fundraiser of the year. We cram 4 events into 3 days. It is in our way of highlighting our annual awardees, our Master of the Medium awardees and Distinguished Educator awardees. They come to town and give a symposium presentation at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and there's a gala dinner later that evening. There's a special caucus members Friday event, and then a wrap-up Sunday brunch. We are in the process of planning that, so the information is not yet up online, but we do hope that everybody in the DC area can come to at least one of the events. Some of them are free and open to the public. And some people, members come into town for the events. So we always love to see that happen. And we welcome all of you. So maybe in the next couple of weeks, I think we'll have more information online about those events. I think that does it for me. So now we're going to go back to Jennifer Scanlon and give her a chance to really introduce herself to our group.
Yes, and I just spent Rebecca's time talking about upcoming programs, looking through all the people that have joined us. So I do want to highlight, we do have Courtney Madison with us, who's here. So we're really excited for that upcoming program happening in just a few weeks. I thought I do have an official bio online, or you can see me on the JRACraft web page, but I thought I would, as a special treat for people who are here at the annual meeting, bring up 5 things about my background that are not in my official bio. So here are those 5 things. We'll see if this works for me. So I've been working in crafts since 2001, when I got a job as a curatorial assistant at what was then called the American Craft Museum and is now the Museum of Arts in Design. And I stayed there for 12 years. My first exhibition was a solo show of Paul Staggard's work. Paul, for those of you who are not familiar with his work, he works in glass. He makes beautiful recreations of nature in paperweights, and he's remained a friend through the years. He just maybe last week wrote me a lovely note on Facebook again. So that's a very special memory for me. My most recent exhibition at the Craft Alliance here in St. Louis, where I am based, was a collaboration with 2 Native American curators on an exhibition of Native American printmakers. It was called Convergence, and it looked at St. Louis as a place that historically within Native American culture has been a place to come together, a real trade center. As the Cahokia archaeological site shows evidence of. I have a special scholarly interest in the intersection between craft and alcohol. I helped organize a craft exhibition for the Belvany Whiskey Company, and I wrote a paper on the history of alcohol for Pernod Ricard. Before that, it all started when I curated a goblet exhibition for the Museum of Arts and Design. And we had an opportunity in February for me to give a talk on goblets, and I decided to give that talk on drinking goblets, alcohol in goblets, and we offered free whiskey or wine tasting, I guess. And we did manage to fill up the Museum of Arts and Design in February at that talk on goblets. So that's just continued throughout throughout my career. Very interesting the way that alcohol is used in different cultures and throughout the millennia. And then as a final little note about me, I personally have no artistic skills, certainly not in craft materials. I've taken classes. I have no skills, but I have nothing but admiration for all of the amazing artists that I do get to work with. And it's very much a privilege to me that I am able to celebrate their work as part of my full-time job. So I did want to open up the conversation, and we do have a little bit of time. If anybody has any questions for me, I am more than happy to answer them, and those could be questions about any of those things in my personal history that you're curious about learning more about. But they are also questions if you want to ask questions about our ideas for JRACraft moving forward. So I'm happy to answer those questions. And while I am waiting to see if anybody dares to go into the chat to ask some questions, I will talk a little bit about that sentence I just said, which is our ideas for JRACraft moving forward. I am really interested in bringing people's voices to learn about what they are interested in doing for JRACraft. I think it's at a great moment right now in its history as a very financially healthy organization, as an organization that is doing wonderful things, as I said, in supporting throughout the craft ecosystem, different aspects of that ecosystem, whether it's the institutions that collect and display the work, whether it's the scholars that research the work, or people who want to learn, and especially in creating community around the work. So that could manifest itself in lots of different ways. So I see a question here from Alexandra Matson asking yes, the key question that a lot of organizations are thinking about these days. Jennifer, how do you plan to cultivate new donors from ages 25 to 45 and 46 to 70? So that's basically all new donors, pretty much. One of the ways in which we are looking to reach out to other new craft donors is members, is to through these partnerships. We are really excited, all the partnerships that Rebecca mentioned, and I'm grateful for her, all of her work on the Distinguished Artist Series in developing these relationships with new institutions. Are a great opportunity to collaborate with those institutions and continuing to take a look at what they have, what their collectors and their donors and their members are interested in, and to see if there's ways in which we can continue to work together in the future on programs and classes and different initiatives that include or expand on what we offer as one institution. So partnership is a great way to not only attract new people, but also to double the impact and the reach of the programming that we're currently doing. And that's something that's very exciting for me.
Can I jump in here, Jennifer?
Absolutely.
So actually, Alexandra, that is a great question, because we're also, as the whole world has, we've gone online for many of our programs, which is great. We have a lot of in-person, but we also now have a national audience, which we didn't necessarily have before. So we are happy for our members in places other than our DC location or DC area to help us help you cultivate new interest and new members. If you have if there's a show or an activity in your area that you think would be interesting to other craft appreciators, let us know, and we will work with you to help plan a local event. So you guys can all be ambassadors for the organization and help us spread the word to more people, especially outside of the DC area. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Great. And I am thinking too of your trips, to far-flung locations like New Zealand, which has a great craft history in terms of its woodworking, native woodworking, Aboriginal art. You're going to South Africa, which will bring some richness. But Art Table, which is the women's professional organization based in New York, used to do a trip to Marfa, for example, in Texas. And so they've done a couple of customized tours that identify unique schools or museums. And I would say working with them in partnership might also prove to be very interesting and collaborative.
Yeah, well, as part of Jennifer's official bio, you'll see that she was the board president of Art Table for a while. So I'm sure she will be reaching out.
Yes,
to make
I
some
saw Jennifer
connections.
several times. Since COVID, Our Table did a lot of online programs, very wonderful ones. And so anyway, I've seen Jennifer's name there, and it was wonderful news that she was hired for the position. I'm excited for what is yet to come. Congratulations to both of you on an exciting past year, and looking forward to the next year.
Great, thank you. I just
You're
want to
welcome.
mention also that you mentioned our international trips. We do have national trips. We have 1 or 2 national trips every year. We have some in the planning process right now, and I see Tim nodding his head. Tim is also our program's vice president, Tim Tate. So he always has some great ideas, and he'll be coming up with some sort of ad hoc events also. So, but anybody out there, if you have an idea for a program in your area, please let us know.
Yeah, I'll challenge you
Fabulous.
right now. If you want to put your idea for a trip or a program in the chat right now, we will collect all of those ideas. So everybody, I am pushing you. If you want to say, this is what I'd love for JRACraft to do in the next few years, I will listen to your ideas and, let's brainstorm. Feel free to put one in there that you're not even sure can happen. And maybe we can make it happen. So
Can I tell them a little bit of things?
Yeah.
One thing for sure, I am going up, I'm sure Fred and Sue are going as well, next summer to Asheville during the Pendleton auction to make sure that we go back to support those artists who will be in beginnings of recovery back then. So that's one. If it's not Jerry sponsored, we're still going to go. So anyone can join that. Anyone who's wants to come along, we'd be more than happy to have them at our table. Fred, is that okay? Fred's good. Okay, he's good. Well, you can come sit at our table. The artists by the tracks, where all the craft artists are in this town, or a lot of them. We're having a meeting to see how many people can offer studio space to any of the displaced artists down in Nashville. It's too early to offer it. However, in a month or so, when all of a sudden they realize they have a show for ACC coming up or whatever, we can offer some studio space for limited times for some of the artists that will be coming up to have shows coming up. So we have local initiatives here that we're also trying to get hold of to make sure we support those people down there. I won't tell any more, Jennifer, I promise.
Great. Thank you, Tim.
I also see that Therese just suggested connecting with craft communities in Canada, and in particular around Indigenous peoples craft. Hi, Therese, it's great to see you. Therese has been helping us out with our plans for the caucus trip to South Africa, which is coming up soon. And she is, in fact, based in Canada. And I think that's a wonderful idea. Therese, you, as I mentioned in my description, I have done exhibitions of Native American arts of all kinds, And that's because I spent time in Oklahoma. I was there for 6 years, and that's one of the centers of just an amazing Native American arts because of all of the many tribes that were forced there, but now are thriving and have a lot of wonderful. The University of Oklahoma offers a PhD, the only PhD in the country in art history with a Native American focus. So there's just a great, there's a great network of people there. And I think Canada also has a really strong and thriving network. And I will reach out to you about that. So would love to talk to you and hear your ideas. How are we doing for time? We're coming up to the end of our time. So if anybody has other questions or comments on anything over the course of the meeting, I am open to
Great. So I see a couple comments. We'll make sure to capture all these ideas, like Virginia just added one. But in closing out, I just want to remind everybody that we are a membership-based organization, and most, if not all, the people on here are members, and we thank you so much. We really appreciate your interest and involvement. If you are not a member, I hope we have enticed you to attend some of our programs and become a member. We do have all these exciting things coming up, many of them free, but some of them do require membership at certain levels. So we hope everybody keeps that in mind. All right, Jennifer, any last words?
No, I'm really excited for the year ahead. I'm really excited to meet many of you in person at some of these events. And I appreciate your time this evening.